Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the 1883 Club. My name's Daniel Evans, Chief Executive. And then you'll have a chance to ask your questions and take part in the group discussion later. For any of you over on YouTube, obviously you'll get this first part, this discussion with Jimmy. But if you want to be part of that conversation, as always, you've got to join the 1883 Club, packed full of opportunities to really help you grow your network, grow as entrepreneurs, and access the opportunities that you need. Head over to our website, www.birminghaменterprisecommunity.co.uk, for more information, or get in touch with the team. We're on all major social media platforms, and we'll be happy to help you. So, Jimmy, thank you very much for joining us today. Maybe it'd be great if we could start with an introduction on who you are and why we've invited you here.
Why have you invited me? The Prime Ministers in Downing Street and head of what I called digital diplomacy, which made the same job sound a bit grander at the Foreign and Commonwealth Office, as it then was. I've worked in media at The Guardian, largely in their B2B media for about 6 or 7 years, on Guardian, particularly online, but also doing books and print for them. Also head of digital at The Independent and editor-in-chief at HuffPost in the UK. And I've also worked at agency level, working as doing public affairs, communications at Portland, and consumer communications at Freud's.
Excellent. So quite a vast range of experience then across some different roles.
Everywhere, yeah, and that doesn't include the last 10 years that I've been doing it freelance and consultancy as well. So I've poked my nose in most places, yeah.
Fantastic, awesome. I think then we're going to jump straight into it. We're going to jump straight into why people have come here today. As you guys know, we're looking at this topic of PR and communications. So a really good place to start for context. What do we mean by PR and communications in a business sense, Jimmy?
Well, I hope you mean two different things, because they are two different things. Your communications is how a company, an organization, individual presents who you are, what you do, and why you do it, and what your products and services are. And public relations, PR, is effectively getting somebody else to do it for you, because often, despite the fact everyone says they don't trust journalists and they don't trust media, people do trust media when it comes to relaying messages. So if you read a review of a film or a piece of music, you will listen to the opinions of the reviewer and decide whether that's for you. If you review a product, if you see these are the top 10 trainers, you will look at that and say, well, actually, these are some of the best trainers. And you will read those reviews and read those things and read commentary around products and services, and then take that on board. And you will then openly be cynical about media, but you will also take in what media does. So that how you deliver your communications through media is one side of it, and how you deliver your communications for yourself is the other side of it.
Interesting. Shall we start? Let's start then with the part of doing it yourself, so the communications. So I'd be really interested to know then how a startup, so many of the founders that we have in 1883 are really early doors, getting themselves out there for the first time. When they're starting off on that journey, when they're that early, what elements do they need to start to consider to build a communication strategy for the first time?
Well, even if you're starting up, presumably you're going to want somebody else to know about it. And that might be investors, it might be stakeholders, it might be regulators, it might be all sorts of people. So I think obviously it depends on what stage you're at, but it depends what the need is. So if you are already launching a product, then the need is to find people to use that product. If you're at a pre-launch stage, you might want to build a bank of people for whom you want to contact when you do launch. So you sign up, give us your email, we'll be in touch when we're ready to launch, or sign up now for early adoption, or whatever it is. However you want to market your process, you want to sign up for that. Or it may be that you're creating a new product, or you're changing a market, and there are issues maybe with the regulatory systems, or maybe you just got to communicate to people about a product they didn't know they needed. And every now and again, there's a product you didn't know you need. An iPad's always a good example of that. Is why would I want a computer that's neither a laptop nor a desktop nor a phone? Why would I want something in the middle? And it proved reasonably successful. So you may want to prepare the ground, you may want to prepare an audience, you may want to demonstrate to investors that you are professional. Often when investors are looking to where to put their money, they are looking to put it in people rather than necessarily in products. So you've got to present both yourself and your organisation the best possible light. Because if you want to stick a few £1,000s in your organisation, they're going to do some due diligence at some point. And at that point, when they start looking around and checking about what you're saying about yourself, then it's probably better that you're doing it professionally than you're doing it badly.
100%. So this really led on to my next question. One of the questions we get constantly is when is the right time to start this? When should a startup or a business, or even somebody with an idea, begin to really communicate with the world what they're doing?
Well, probably the minute you talk to anybody else about it, because I mean, the idea that communications can be one-to-one as well as one-to-many. So at some point, quite early stage, you are already communicating. So I think those early stages of telling friends or family or colleagues or whatever what it is you're up to, you're already putting together a pitch script of some kind. You're already deciding what it is that you want to tell people about what you're doing. So all those early stage conversations are effectively practicing for more public-facing conversations or to bigger audiences. So you are communicating straight away. And presumably at some point, you will have some kind of digital presence, whether social media presence or whatever, and within that, you want to be telling people what you're doing. If it's only family and friends on a fairly limited scale. But within that, there is no such thing as, that is public communications. There's no such thing as private communications. You can't trust anybody. So somebody will, if that's public, then you got to treat it as though it's widely public rather than narrowly public. And then you're already communicating. So get it right first time, or at least practice to get it right as early as you possibly can.
That's awesome. And now, kind of with those two elements again, with PR then. So when they're on that startup journey and they're looking to use PR for the first time, what are the things they need to start to consider?
Well, start to consider who you're talking to. I mean, what is the audience for what you're doing? What is the audience? What is the demographic of that audience? And then read out of that what their likely media habits are going to be. So if your audience is going to be purely on social media, then you need a social media strategy rather than a PR strategy. If your audience do consume media and do consume news media or TV media, whatever it is, then make sure that your strategy matches those audience habits. And then you've got to create content to match that, or you've got to sell in content to people, selling content to those editors, to those journalists, or to whoever it is who's going to produce that on your behalf, and tell them why you're giving value to their audiences. Because the worst possible kind of PR, well, there's lots of worst possibles, but one of the worst starts to PR is, I've got a product and I want to tell everybody about it. And the answer, as an editor, the answer is, well, why should I care? You want to make some money, fine, that's your problem, it's not mine. So what we're trying to persuade an editor is that I've got something that's of interest to your audience, not that I've got something that's of interest to me. So if you can persuade an editor that what you're doing is of interest to wide numbers of people who buy his newspaper, click onto his website, or download his podcast, or whatever it is, then that's how you're going to get to be featured. Just saying that we're doing something, surely everybody cares. Actually, no, most people don't care. And you've got to persuade a journalist or an editor, not only is it their people who care, but why they should care.
And is that then just about the kind of the way that it's pitched as a story to an editor?
Well, partly. I mean, most products to some degree solve a problem. I mean, that problem might be quite basic, like thirst or hunger, or it might be a conundrum about how you organise your pensions or something like that. So that it's what the problem is, or why it is that you found a new way of solving an age-old problem. What is unique about what you're doing, or what is or what is an interest, either it's unique about what you're doing, or you've got a really interesting take on it, a really interesting use case study, something like that. You transform somebody's lives, because the whole point of people purchasing what you do as a product or a service is you're going to make their lives better. You're going to improve their lives in some way. Either it's a better tasting drink, or it's a more efficient pension. But you've got to be able to sell that into people as to this is the difference that it makes. So you've got to tell a story around it rather than tell just the fact of it. The fact of it is there are lots of pension products, and I've no idea why yours is better. You've got to tell me as an editor why that's going to be better.
Awesome. And then from a practical point of view, in terms of PR, obviously, when you're starting out, you haven't necessarily got the money to buy somebody in who's got that PR experience, or necessarily use an agency. What would be a very lean way of starting to engage with PR, to reach out to journalists? How can these guys do that?
You just find out what the connection point is. I mean, often the connection point at startup is either trade press who are in the same business as you, or local regional press who are in the same geography as you. I mean, it's finding a shared community of interest, no matter what it is. And the reason why people pay agencies to go to big media is because that community of interest is huge. We all buy the same newspaper, or we all live on the same island, or we all watch the same BBC programs. That's a big community of interest, and therefore that takes a lot selling into, because it's very competitive. But the smaller you go, so you go into bloggers or influencers or local or regional press or trade press, then the easier it is, because you've already got a selling point. Local firm launches product, or product launches in the same industry that you're in, so you've already got something in there. And the relationships are a little bit easier, because quite honestly, there's less competition, and a local and regional press, they are struggling, and they're often online only these days, and they are struggling for content. They are struggling and the more you do their work for them, the more you write the press release as a story, and you check out what their house style is, and you do it in their same headline style as them, and you use the same construction as them, and you study what they do and how they put story together, then if they read that and they say, well, that sounds like us, and as a journalist, you look at that and you think, actually, he's done most of my job for me. And you've got a picture attached to it, you've got a picture of the product, and you've got a picture of the person you've quoted in there, even if that person is yourself. Dan 11 says, this is a wonderful thing, and I'm really proud to have done it, and there's a little picture of you attached to it, then that helps. You've done all the work, you've done most of what the journalist would do. I mean, he or she ought to call you back and check a few facts and write his own quotes, etc., etc. But the more you do for them, the more likely they are to go, oh, sorry, that's an easy win for me. I can get that up, I can get that delivered quite quickly, and most of that work's done. So starting, as you would do when you're launching a product, you are starting with a small market. As you're doing with your PR, you start with similarly small targets. And then as your company and your organization and your market grows, then the media relationships and the communication strategy grows alongside it, because you are trying to reach more and more people. But if you are selling one product in week one, then you're aiming at an audience of one in terms of PR and media and communications in week one, and you grow in a similar sort of pace.
Awesome. Before we move on to, I think this will be probably my penultimate question, looking at the time. I know some of the guys will be very keen to kind of have a chat and ask their own questions. My next question then, so we've kind of spoken about communication, spoken about PR. There's obviously that kind of wider sense of the marketing activities of the business. What would be your advice in terms of making sure there's almost like a commonality running across those different activities? How can you make sure that you're, even though there's maybe a different approach to them, you're being consistent in message?
Well, I mean, that goes back to basics. I mean, your marketing, anyway, for a start, it depends what your communication strategy is for. If your communication strategy is purely to sell product, then you're better off handing it over to the marketing person. More likely, it's about getting across the idea that not only is it your better product, but you're a better people to buy it off. Because people very increasingly, and the way brands behave, people will make choices about purchasing around how brands behave and how they talk. So people may be less likely to go to Wetherspoons once pubs reopen, because at the start of the pandemic they behave like wankers. So you might think, well, but you may make a choice, but you'll make a more informed choice. They are cheap. They give cheap beer. They are also wankers. So which is more important to you, the cost or the corporate behavior? And lots of people will make choices based on corporate behavior, based on what they perceive to be your values. So you've got to communicate around that. You've got to communicate not just to customers, but also to stakeholders and investors and all sorts of other people who are going to have opinions about you, which if you've launched your product and you're looking for second stage investment, the idea of you talking about nothing other than your product is going to be, it's a pretty one-dimensional affair here. And they were more likely to invest in somebody whose talent and values and ambitions they can share. So you talk about much more than just what you do. You talk about who you are and why you are and all the rest of it. So in all that, you've got to match that to what you say about yourself, and you have a certain number of channels which you own, most notably usually your website and what you say in your website and the tone in which you say it and the terminology which you use. Because one of the bigger failings of communications is usually that a company talks to itself and it uses its own terminologies and languages and acronyms and initials about things. And I am working with one, and they put out a press release and it had 3 acronyms in one headline. And I'm going, I have no idea what you've just said. I have no idea what these words mean. And you expect everybody else. One of the bigger failings is that people expect everybody to understand what they're saying. Yeah. And actually, no, you've got to translate it. You've got to translate what you're saying to somebody else. It's all right, you know all these things, and I expect to have a certain level of expertise. I don't expect to have that level of expertise to buy what you do. So, it's taught to me in ways that I can understand. So getting all your communication strategy right, your communication strategy may be talking to different or a much broader market than your marketing strategy, because it may be you don't go direct to consumers. You may be B2B business, and your consumers therefore are quite limited. And what you say about yourself in one space may be different to what you say about in another space. But there is a consistency of travel in those things. You will have, and I'm not making this overly complicated, but you will have 4 or 5 different things you are consistently talking about. And your communication strategy means working out what those 4 or 5 things are, and then leaving it at that, and then not talking about. You don't have to talk about absolutely everything. There was a company I was talking to a month or so ago. Where they had a blog on there. We're supposed to do their content marketing for them, and they would and I said, well, that has got nothing to do with what your latest post has got nothing to do with what you do. Why do you do it? So, well, I thought it might be of some interest, and some interest might be of some interest is no way to do your communications. Everything has got to be facing the same direction, about the same 2, 3, or 4 things you want to be talking about. And everything has got to be subservient to that, and don't vary from that. And that goes to your PR, and it goes to your marketing. Well, your marketing is probably only talking about 2 things: the product and the service, or whatever, or the product and the delivery of the product. You may want to talk about brand values and organisation around that, and that is what you're talking about in PR. So you pick your topics, you pick your tone, you pick your terminology, and that will decide all the other things about what you do. And it will decide how you deliver that on social media, and it'll decide how you deliver that in public relations, and it'll decide everything else. But topic, tone, and terminology are the 3 most important things you do, because they're the 3 things you share across all those other platforms.
Amazing. And I think for this portion, this is actually probably a good point to finish up on. My other question was going to be around common mistakes, but I think you've alluded to a lot of them in there around kind of the things that you need to get right and things that you need to focus on. So I think you've already answered that part.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is, as I say, it's organisations which is human understanding, rather than, and it doesn't mean you talk down, and it doesn't mean you dumb down, but it does mean you simplify. And organisations which talk about themselves and talk about irrelevancies and talk about how their CEO met somebody really interesting the other day, that kind of thing. I don't care. I don't care who your CEO's met. I don't care whether you went fishing last weekend or not, or whether it reminded you of something. It's keep it simple, and keep it to the topic in hand, and don't bother with that oversharing stuff, because nobody's desperately impressed.
Awesome. Well, hold on right there, Jimmy, a second. We're gonna finish up on this part. To the guys on the call and Jimmy as well. As soon as I end this part of the session, if you click on the very first table in the social lounge, we'll all have a conversation around that table. To anybody watching on YouTube, thank you very much for joining us. As I said right at the start, if you want to be part of 1883 Club, if you want to be able to join in with the networking and the conversations, again, head over to our website, birminghaменterprisecommunity.co.uk, click on 1883 Club, check it out, ask us if there are any questions, and come and be part of this fantastic community. Thanks again, Jimmy, and I will see you all shortly.